Finally, I get to make a championship video in June! Excuse me while I pick that low-hanging fruit, okay? The Toronto Marlies are your 2026 Calder Cup champions! And even though Sid Sixero might say the Calder Cup means nothing, it means something to me! It means something to a lot of Leafs fans, and I think it should mean a lot to you. Last night, the Toronto Marlies won Game 5 in Toronto. They won the championship in Toronto over the Chicago Wolves in a comeback win. They won the championship in Toronto yesterday the same way they won it in Toronto in 2018, and I was there in 2018, and I wish I was there this time. And I've been reading the comments, I've seen the comments, why aren't you covering the Marlies? And the answer is I'm made of flesh and bone, just like you. With the condensed Olympic schedule and the playoffs and the draft coming up and the unbelievable news dump that we've got over this past week, it's just not possible. It was not possible. I wish it was possible. We're a small company. One day I think it will be possible. This year it wasn't possible. Just know I've been paying attention to the Marlies and I've badly wanted to... I wanted to go! Steve, stream the games. I would love to have if I were two people. But enough about all that. No one wants to hear all that. Who were the big performers? Because you're already seeing haters saying, oh, it was a vet-heavy team. And to that, I would say, that's what they said about the 2018 team. And even if there was some truth to it, it was valuable playoff experience. And think of all the players on that team who went on to play NHL games after winning the 2018 Calder Cup. Andreas Johnsson was the Marlies' playoff MVP that year. Trevor Moore was on that team. He's been an impact player and is caked. I don't know if you noticed, he makes millions of dollars. Carl Grundstrom's played 339 NHL games. I didn't know it was that many either. Mason Marchment was on the fourth line of that team. Pierre Engvall was putting together a nice NHL career until he signed a weird contract that sort of helped keep him out of the NHL, but also he's a millionaire. Justin Hall was on that team. Timothy Liljegren was on that team. Garrett Sparks and Calvin Pickard played in the NHL. Jesperi Kapanen was on that team. Now, if you're listening to that list of names and you're like, none of those names really move me, all right, maybe they're not super duper stars, but they're guys who can play some NHL games for you, and some of them are real good contributors for their team. To me, the most glaring thing about that list of players isn't that there aren't superstars. The most glaring thing is that they didn't do it on the Leafs. That is probably the real shame of the 2018 championship. I hope they don't make that mistake this time, because there are some very, very good players on that team that contributed to this championship. Logan Shaw, the captain, has been a beauty. He played in the NHL. I think it's something he's still capable of. He was the team's leading scorer in the regular season and was a key contributor in the playoffs as well. The Marlies' leading scorer in the playoffs somehow didn't get a sniff of the NHL this year. Vinny Lettieri. Go watch his goal from Game 5. You can find it on TikTok, on all their social channels. There's nothing minor league about that shot. He vaporized the puck. In 23 games, he was the only Marlie to hit double-digit goals in these playoffs with 11 and 26 total points. William Villeneuve had 2 goals and 21 assists in 24 playoff games, which is one of the best assist playoff runs for a defenseman ever in the AHL. That guy should have played way earlier than he did last season, and he better play this upcoming season. You want puck moving? That guy did a lot of puck moving to the back of the net. Easton Cowan, 8 goals and 10 assists for 18 points. He didn't even get into every game. He missed a couple. Ryan Twerberg continues to be a fascinating player in this organization. He was a great contributor in this run. What about Bo Grew? What about Bo Grew? That guy was awesome, and you'll notice he was on the ice killing the final seconds of the clock. Luke Hames contributed exactly half a point a game in the regular season and then contributed exactly half a point a game in the playoffs. Consistent. Dakota Mermis, after putting up only 7 points in 27 games in the regular season, had 10 in 24 games in the playoffs. I talked about how the Marlies' fourth line was so good in 2018 and that ended up producing NHL players. Landon Sim is out of his mind. That kid is a greasy rat. They just signed him to an NHL deal this spring. They intend on playing this player. Well, It was the last signing Brad Treliving ever made. It was his last transaction as Leafs GM. But if you watched him agitate during this cup run, oh my gosh, please keep this guy. Dennis Hildeby had a .914 save percentage in 20 NHL games this season. You know how many goalies played at least 20 NHL games and had a .914 save percentage? It's a very short list. Actually, give me a sec. Third! He was third! Dennis Hildeby had the third best save percentage among goalies that played at least 20 games in the NHL this past season. The only two guys ahead of him were Scott Wedgwood, who had a .921, and Jesper Wallstedt, who had a .916. Then it's Dennis Hildeby, followed by Andrei Vasilevsky, Logan Thompson, and Igor Shesterkin. And I tell you all that to say, he wasn't even the Marlies starter. It was Artur Akhtiamov, and he was incredible. Hildeby being up so much with the Leafs actually provided an opportunity for Akhtiamov to see so much of the Marlies net, and he developed wonderfully. 21, 12, and 4 with a .904 save percentage in the regular season. Respectable. 15 and 7 in the Calder Cup playoffs with a 923 save percentage. Now, I'm going to remind you that another goalie who won the Calder Cup with the Marlies in 2018 was statistically unbelievable was Garrett Sparks. So good AHL stats and even winning the Calder Cup don't necessarily mean, hey, you're going to be the next Vezina Trophy winner, or even an NHL starter, or even an NHL backup, or even a good NHL third. You know what I mean? But the Leafs have a very interesting and sort of healthy situation in net. Stolarz, hopefully he gets back on track. Hildeby, is he NHL ready? He sure looked NHL ready this past season. And then there's Artur Akhtiamov, who, unlike Hildeby, can be sent down to the minors without having to clear waivers. That is a great 1, 2, 3 situation for the Leafs. Not to mention they still have the option of signing another goalie and maybe you put him on waivers or maybe you just carry 3 goalies. But it is worth mentioning that Artur Akhtiamov won the Jack A. Butterfield Trophy as the AHL's playoff MVP, en route to winning a Calder Cup. And during that Calder Cup celebration, he was holding a Rodion Amirov jersey, and Marlies GM Ryan Hardy was also wearing that jersey. Akhtiamov was drafted to the Leafs the same year as Rodion Amirov, former first-round pick of the Leafs, who unfortunately passed. They were on the Russian World Junior team together. That was a really, really touching moment last night. But look, I want to remind you all of April when vibes haven't been that low in Leaf Nation in an extremely long time. And I know because I've documented it as well as my mental decline over the last nearly 2 decades. That might have been all-time low territory. It was worse than blowing the 3-1 lead to Montreal. It was bad. 2021 was they screwed up. 2026 was they screwed up and they're never going to get it back. That's how it felt. But now, they won the Calder Cup championship. That's better than a kick in the pants. I'll take that. Darren Radish was supposed to be the biggest named defenseman available in free agency. They just got him. That's better than a kick in the pants. Oh, and in a few days, the Leafs are going to have the first overall pick. That's way better than a kick in the pants. None of your dads ever said that? This is better than a kick in the pants? No? It's just me? All right. Listen, whether you agree with the trades they've made recently or not, whether you agree with the coach hiring or not, whether a Calder Cup championship moves you or not, these are fascinating times in Leafs Nation. And I know that because the interests in this channel are unbelievable. Dude, I made a video for every game of the Stanley Cup Final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. And there were Leaf storylines built deep within that series. Made a video for all 6 games, and all 6 games were beaten by the viewership for the video I made when the Leafs signed Tinas Luke Koblar. Go look. Good. You think I'm lying? Why would I lie about it? Go look. All right? I'm excited to see these guys graduate. They could be trade value for the Leafs. I would prefer it if they were Leafs. Wouldn't that be great if Marlies ended up becoming Leafs? That's the whole point. Whether it's a guy like Borealis or Noah Chadwick down the line, or someone immediately like a Letary or a Villeneuve or Akhtiamov, Hildeby, who knows? But this is exciting. This is objectively a great thing. And they're apparently going to celebrate at Real Sports on Monday because where they celebrated their Calder Cup victory in 2018, right next door to the building, is literally the World Cup. I was down there this past week. There's no chance you can hold a celebration there. There isn't. I don't know. Real Sports is as good a spot as any. I want to end by saying a congratulations to the 2026 Toronto Marlies. You're champions. You're always going to be champions. And it's a beautiful thing. You made this city proud. You made this nation proud. Leafs Nation. Congratulations. What do you think? Leave a comment in the comment box down below. And I'd like to know what videos you'd like to see over the next week. If the Leafs do a bunch of things that are news items and I make videos about them, I'm not going to be able to make extra videos. But if it's a bit of a quiet week leading into the trade deadline, the draft, Steven. If it's a bit of a quiet week leading into the draft, what would you like to hear me talk about? Who knows? Maybe we can even put together a stream. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends. The Toronto Marlies are Calder Cup champions.